Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temy. Temy is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we're joined by an amazing guest, Pablo Castillo, who is CTO at Chain4Travel. Hello, Pablo. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Barry. Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day. For those who don't know you, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you work at?
So I'm Pablo. I'm co-founder and CTO of Chain4Travel. As the name indicates, Chain4Travel has built a chain, so a blockchain for the travel industry, which is called Camino. We have been tasked by the Camino Network Foundation, who had the vision to build a global blockchain for a variety of different use cases for the travel industry. I'm 44 years old. I live in Switzerland. By the name, you most probably have deduced already that I'm not Swiss. I'm Spanish, but was born and raised here. Worked all my life in the travel industry. So my first job actually was not in tech. It was selling trips to travel agencies. At that point in time, I was working for a tour operator, and really through phone, fax, and call center, we were communicating with the travel agency. Then internet came along, found that quite interesting, disruptive. And we see a lot of similarities, actually, what's happening today with blockchain Web3 space, with what happened in the early Web2 days. And that's quite funny. We will talk later about that one as well, most probably. And then I made my way through the whole blockchain project management way, through international project management, up to being CIO of Autoplan Group, which is one of the largest tour operators in Europe, which also covers different kind of fields. So that was quite interesting to get insights into different verticals of the travel industry. Then I think with around 40 years, I think my midlife crisis hit me, and then I was fed up a little bit with the lack of innovation in travel. So then I did what we in the travel industry usually do when we have no clue what to do next. So we went traveling with my family on a world trip. And during that world trip, actually, two of my co-founders phoned me up, asking, "Hey, Pablo, when are you coming back? We have this interesting idea of building a blockchain for the travel industry." My first reaction was not sure if that's going to work, because since 2016, I've been following up with the blockchain development. And in early days, blockchains were quite slow, not really made for the millions and billions of transactions we have in our industry, especially in the search area. So I was quite skeptical at the beginning, but they sent me over the concept, and we started actually working on the concept, and then I was convinced. And now here we are, 2.5 years later. We are live with our blockchain. More than 100,000 transactions have already been made on our blockchain itself. By end of the year, most probably will have 1 million transactions. And these figures compared to all the blockchains may sound very small, but mind you, our token is not tradable. So those are real world transactions, and that's actually what the whole space currently is chasing.
Were you always interested in travel? Was it something that you knew that was going to be a big part of your life?
Yes, actually. Being born in Switzerland and having access to different cultures from day one on this planet, so I was always interested in different cultures, different foods, and travel is just the best way, in my opinion, to educate yourself and to better understand what's happening in our societies worldwide. So yes, definitely always was keen to travel and explore the world, and it's still actually our family hobby. Whenever we have time and money, then we go off.
And what was the vision behind the company? What was it that caused you to decide that we need to do this? We need to put something in the marketplace?
So I think, what's really for a lot of people not understandable, because you don't see behind the scenes. If you look at the travel industry, on the one hand side, it's a collaborative industry, right? Think of your last trip. You left your house, you took an Uber, you went to the airport, you went through customs, security check, airline, hotel transfer, and all of that back. So different entities working together. And actually, blockchain is ideal for that because it's a collaborative technology. So everybody can have access to the same amount of data. You can restrict data sets to different parties. So from that perspective, it's really the ideal technology as a base infrastructure. Today, travel has a lot of issues behind the scenes. We are working with protocols and technology which is older than you and myself, Barry, honestly. So next time you're sitting near a gate at an airport, maybe you hear this printer when actually the airline is printing out the PAX manifest. That's based on a 65 years old protocol still, that transfer. So on the one hand side, that the legacy systems are an issue because they are not maintainable for the future on the one hand side. And it's also the problem that, they're not open for what's to come. I mean, we don't have any crystal ball where we see the future, but we know a lot of things which are coming, like digital wallets, digital money, digital IDs, and the systems are not ready for that. And even worse, a lot of industry players are not aware that this is coming. So that's one thing. The other thing is the highly fragmented market actually we are in. So travel is often seen as, there's one global system and everybody's working with that. No, it's not. I mean, travel is fragmented into different verticals like the airline, the hospitality, then you have transport, you have trade. But within those verticals, you again have a lot of different technology suppliers. So whenever you want to grow as a company, let's assume like a tour operator or an OTA wants to go into other markets, usually you have to plug into a lot of different APIs for sourcing and distribution, and that is just not handleable anymore for the future. And also we saw a lot of upsides using blockchain technology when it comes to more tangible issues we have today, like for instance, high payment cost. I mean, in our industry, we are using a lot of credit card payments and a lot of virtual credit cards. Also, if you are internationally as a company, you're sending money around globally. So that means a lot of payment costs, be it bank transfers, because it's international, you're using exotic destinations and exotic currencies, or really credit card costs, which eats away like 3 to 4%, even 5% of your margin, not taking into the account the 24 billions of fraud and chargebacks we have every year. So travel being one of the largest industries worldwide, it's great, but it's a low margin industry as well. So adding 3 to 4% to your bottom line, because blockchain technology is the only technology out there where you can do a transaction, and basically if that transaction is successful, you receive the money instantly or through a smart contract, however you define the payment flows, it goes away. So those separate costs goes away actually. And another more urgent issue now, and since 2 years with the rise of AI and the large language models, is of course the need to verify data. You may make this experience yourself, and you were traveling in the early days of Corona. So it was very hard to find out what is really the relevant data you need. What do I need to get into a country? So do I need a vaccine? Don't I need a vaccine? There were many, many informations out there, but nothing was verified. It was contradictory. And now imagine using unverified data and feeding that into an AI layer. So then, pardon my French, it's shit in, shit out. And it removes even the human interface we are used to. When we Google, we have like selection of search results. And based on our experience, we know more or less, okay, which one we can trust or not. But then it's just a machine telling you it's like that, or even a machine making decisions for you. So we definitely need to work together with AI and blockchain to make sure that the data the customer or the company are consuming are accurate and verified.
So why do you believe that blockchain, I mean, you've given us some good examples there, but why do you believe it's a crucial technology for the travel industry?
I think also not only because it's a collaborative technology, but it's decentralized, right? I mean, all similar to the early days of Web3, where the initiators of the Web3 movement were like against the big central entities like banks, like Google. We have similar structures and oligopoles as well in travel. So I think the only way to break that is really to go into a more decentralized model when it comes to working together, not using a centralized platform, and also to avoid in future that there will be new Googles, new Baidus, new whatever, because I mean, technology is there, it can be used. It's just the willingness of the industry that needs to be fostered to work together. And this is what we do as well at Camino. We are not only building actually the blockchain itself, we are building a whole ecosystem of companies by educating them, convincing them, bringing them online and helping them understand the use cases.
And how does your platform address the common security concerns and potential scams within the blockchain space?
Yeah. So this was also one of the reasons why we decided to have an own blockchain. On the one hand side, all our validators are from the travel industry. So they are vetted. They have to go through KYB. So we know who they are actually. Also, each company can only have one validator and everybody has exactly the same stake. So it's not possible to take over the network by having more validators or higher stake or Sybil attacks or whatever. On top of that, we also included that every smart contract which is deployed on our chain needs to have a KYC address in there. So those are two layers we added on the one hand side. And of course, I mean, now that we are opening, we're building a bridge to Polygon, we are opening the ecosystem, security will be paramount. I mean, we are working with Hexens, for instance, as our main auditor. So we had already different audits on our end. We are thinking as well in connecting to Hexen's new platform, which basically is like an antivirus for all the smart contracts. So they will constantly monitor actually what's happening on the chain, like an antivirus today, because you can do today an audit of a smart contract and maybe that the vulnerability was not yet known, and you deploy that, and then you have exactly the situation which is happening in a lot of other blockchains, that once a vulnerability is there, all the smart contracts which have been audited already get exploited as well.
You mentioned like the enhanced security. What about transparency within the travel booking ecosystem? How does blockchain influence that?
I mean, transparency is a two-edged sword, right? On the one hand side, there are areas where we love to have transparency, like, for instance, reviews. Is this customer? We have one company like Trient, who is actually working on proof of stay, so that when you write the review, that you really see, okay, this review writer was really at that hotel or at that restaurant. TripAdvisor, for instance, has a huge problem there. They had to delete 2 million of reviews only this year because they found out that companies or bots were writing reviews, and you can actually order them in bulk. So for $100, you get 1,000 positive reviews or 1,000 negative reviews for your competitor. So there's a business model behind that. And that's why transparency is definitely very, very important. Also, there are other areas in travel, for instance, like sustainability, huge area as well. If you talk to a travel company, it's mostly in the top three strategic initiatives that they want to be more sustainable. Airlines are now working on sustainable airline fuel. A lot of tour operators and OTAs offer the possibility to compensate your flights with CO2 emissions. But what happens with that money? So since we're doing this since 20 years, but nobody knows, okay, I'm paying my obolus, so to say, to this company, but what happens then? So they are now more and more of these companies are using blockchain so that they can trace the funds. So if you have donated something, did it really reach the wallet of this, let's say, reforestation project in Amazonas or not?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that is something that's put forward. It's got high exposure out there in the marketplace, and you really don't know half the time whether these things that they say that they're doing, they do actually do. So it's interesting that you say that. In terms of just like looking ahead, what are some of the most exciting possibilities that you can foresee for blockchain technology in the travel industry?
So I think it's opening up a lot of new business models as well. Like, so some companies have now already started to digitalize or tokenize basically their bookings. So you create a booking, it's an NFT booking, and this opens completely new revenue streams as well for operators, hotels, and airlines, so that you can, in case that you cannot travel, you can resell that. Let's take, for instance, Taylor Swift as an example, right? I mean, I read an article where it's stated that alone in the US, the yearly fraud with tickets and events concerts is like 4 billion. It's amazing, right? Those guys standing in front of the stadium with a thing like I have 3 Taylor Swift tickets, and then you find out it was copied. So the moment you want to go in, so this technology allows for secure transfer of an asset you owned, and you can be sure that actually you get the money and the other guy get the thing. And even cooler is that the event organizer or the hotel or the airline gets a cut out of that, depending on how the smart contract has been defined. So that's definitely something which allows for new thing. And looking a little bit ahead, what I mentioned before, I mean, we will have digital IDs, we will have digital money. So companies need to prepare that for that as well. And most of that will happen on blockchain and in wallets. We also believe very much that wallets will be crucial for communication with customers. So new ways of doing marketing, new ways of communicating with the customers. I mean, there are even concepts out there where say, hey, Outlook is like Web 2 still, right? I mean, you can write and you can read and you can share information, but you cannot own information or assets. So actually wallets will be the main mean to communicate between companies and also with customers in future. And if you understand the wallet of the customer, if he gives you the consent that you can have access to that, if he is more like a state-owned wallet with his identity and everything there, that will also lead to more new marketing possibilities where you can definitely better curate the content, you can better offer him, you can personalize offers, and instead of just shooting with the shotgun all your offers out there, you can definitely target them much, much better.
And since you mentioned the Web 2, and we are kind of still on the subject of blockchain, how does your company leverage e-commerce and project management tools in the context of Web3 and blockchain?
Well, we use there a lot of common sense, honestly. I mean, on the one hand side, of course, we are using a tech stack for blockchain development. And the rest is very much, we are a small development team. Currently, we have 10 people in the team. In the height, before we went on mainnet, we were 25 developers worldwide. And we use actually GitHub mainly. So it's open source. Everybody can, even our community members can contribute to that. We have put a lot of emphasis on automatization and automated tested from day one on. And I mean, the biggest change for us was because most of us came from the Web 2 development area. So there, basically, if you have an error, you patch the server and off you go. Now you have to coordinate much more, right? I mean, if you have an error, you have like 50 validators online. You need to coordinate with them that they patch their server within a certain time frame. So I would say the tools are more or less the same. It's more the procedure that change when you start working with blockchain. The mindset needs to change as well. So it's much more around security, about automated testing. It's less about, let's ship this. It's 80% and then we just test it. So no, because if the blockchain has an error and it comes to standstill, then you have an issue.
What would you say was like the biggest challenge or biggest surprise that you've learned since you've been an entrepreneur doing this journey?
I think the biggest challenge is definitely adoption on the one hand side and education. So when we talk with different companies, a lot of people still have this kind of thinking, blockchain equals crypto equals scam. So that's a common line of thinking a lot of people have. Yeah, crypto is one use case. We are trying to educate people that there can be more. What we try to do, as we are not selling software, we try to consult people on, hey, how can you use blockchain to either create more revenue or operation excellence or streamline your operations, but it must have some added value, right? I mean, doing blockchain just for blockchain purposes is not right. You need to fix an issue to have added value, else it's not going to be successful. For us, most of us, were early exposed to blockchain. And one of the biggest issues there is still usability, of course. I mean, we are now targeting a mass market, a very specific industry, and we see more and more of this kind of industry-specific blockchains emerging, like Aura for the luxury good industry as well, like Aura is for the travel industry. But the problem there is a little bit, we are still too much focused on blockchain, on MetaMask, on how this can work, and it's super secure, makes a lot of sense. It was developed by developers, for developers mainly, but not for the mass market. So my mother couldn't use a blockchain as with the tools which are today. So it needs to be much more user-friendly. We often joke that actually only talking about blockchain is like only talking about the car engine and not talking about the car and where the car can take you at the end of the day, right? And so usability, in my opinion, is key going forward. It must be simpler. It must be more secure as well. I mean, there was also a lot of scams. You also mentioned it. And this also happened in the early days of internet. A lot of people forget about that one. But that's always when new technology arises, the bad actors are actually the first one to really adopt it and, try to make most out of it. Our aim is actually that people use our platform without even thinking about blockchain. It's just there. It has some benefits. It also has its limitations. We are well known about that as well. But overall, actually, we should not talk about blockchain. We should talk about the use cases and what kind of problems it can solve.
And it wouldn't be a podcast interview without mentioning AI. Can you discuss the impact of AI technologies on your business operations and customer interactions?
Yeah. So I think everybody in our team is using AI on a daily basis, be it ChatGPT or also our programmers, just to get some inspiration. I think it's going huge strides, right? I mean, it's amazing how it's being developed. A lot of our partners in the ecosystem are using AI already for customer services, chatbots, document scanning, and so on. And more we will see definitely AI adoption. I'm a bit worried about that people still use their old systems and unverified data to feed into AI. So again, there I would see definitely a perfect fit between blockchain verification layer and also putting the AI a little bit into check. Also, most of the AI models are actually centralized today. That's also something a lot of people forget. I mean, blockchain lovers always love and emphasize the decentralization aspect of a blockchain, but on the other hand, they're jumping right into Google's and Facebook's and all the other large language models which are out there, or OpenAI. So there are some interesting aspects as well about decentralized AIs. So that's also an interesting topic, which is quite early still. But definitely AI will have a huge impact, and we are also definitely going to use AI in future as well. The question will we be under, can we control it, and how do we really do ethical AI? Because a lot of the AIs, I mean, they come with bias, programmer bias, cultural bias already. So how do you verify at the end the result as well? I think their blockchain will definitely play a role.
So within your marketplace, it's constantly evolving. How do you keep up to date? How do you make sure you're on the cutting edge of the latest updates?
Well, we read a lot, so it's a team effort, definitely. Sometimes you miss it. I mean, we try to be present as well on most of or some of the events worldwide. I mean, we basically have two worlds, so two hats to wear. On the one hand side, we have the travel industry, and there's a lot of ongoing. Then on the other hand side, we have the tech space, where currently it's almost impossible to keep up the pace because it's evolving exponentially, right? I mean, technology really was very, very fast. But at the end, I think that's the duty of every manager in any company to find his way. Okay, where do I get my summaries? Where do I get my data? And you can program an AI bot that summarizes the highlights depending on the sources that interest you, for instance. So that's not a big thing. But basically, it's a lot of Twitter, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of podcast listening as well, and being present and networking with people. But yes, sometimes you even miss an important trend. But then again, I mean, coming back to the hype curve, some is a lot of hype, some is thing. I think what you always need to keep in mind where you want to go and do step by step. I mean, you cannot jump like 20 light years into the future already. We first need to have a base. We first need to connect this base to the ecosystem. We need to convince actually the users that this technology can be used, and only then it will become an innovation. Because a lot of people always use innovation as a very inflationary word, saying, okay, this is a very innovative product, but nobody's using it. For me, innovation is when mass market state has been reached and people are using it. That's the new thing.
And how do you differentiate between, this new upcoming technology, it's going to be amazing? How do you keep yourself grounded? Or do you let yourself get a little bit carried away with the market and the direction of travel?
I think that's within our human nature. If you're curious and if you like new stuff, then of course you sometimes get carried away. But at the end, it's more the rational that, okay, what can this really do for me? Are we there already to use this, or do we need to have some other steps? Usually what I do, we have really good technical people in our company. So we do sparring. So that like, hey, have you heard? We discussed that internally. Only yesterday evening, we had like a brainstorming session about, hey, what's missing on tooling and so on. So I think communication and peer review is key there, just to make sure. But yes, sometimes it's also a little bit of gut feeling and also experience coming on.
And finally, can you just give us some top tips or advice for upcoming entrepreneurs who may be wanting to start their own company? For your experience in life, what advice would you give to someone who's newly starting a company?
There would be a lot of advices. I mean, it's the first company I co-founded. Honestly, I was working for corporates. I think the most important one, set your goals and believe in it, and definitely make a good plan. Be realistic as well, especially when it comes to budgeting, cash burn, runways. From day one on, have a good financial reporting, because this is really important. And we also work with a lot of startups where sometimes the business case is missing, or the cash burn is too high. So have a good feeling there. Even if you receive 1, 2, 3, 4 millions at the beginning, you're euphoric. You think, wow, now we made it. That money melts like snow in the sun, honestly. So have a good grip on your financials. The other thing also is, if you have co-founders, definitely have a good deal with them so that it's fair when it comes to the shares, that it comes to the workload. And for the rest, build up a good team. And don't spend too much time trying. If somebody is not performing and not on the same page, then definitely you should more go for fire and rehire than to keep people in there. Because startup business is different. It's definitely different. I mean, I grew a few gray and white hairs since I started this company, but it's also a lot of fun, honestly. So don't that's maybe the last thing, resilience. So get used to get no. If you go to investors, if you go to companies, I mean, we knocked since we started in December 21, I think, on more than 2,000 doors of companies, because we are more talking to B2B businesses. And roughly 80% said, not yet, too early, or I don't have the money or the knowledge. 20% said, yes, this is interesting. I want to be part of that. And 10% said, hey, I'm going to invest. That's already good figures. But get used to no. Also, if you go to pitch battles, you talk to VCs, there will be more no's and ghosting than yes. So, and this is definitely, you need a little bit thick hide for that.
Lovely, amazing advice. And Pablo, thank you so much again for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, Barry. Have a good day.
That was Pablo Castillo, CTO at Chain4Travel.